For centuries, sailors have told stories of sea monsters, giant white whales, and even mermaids luring them into the depths. That may be scary to some, but for people like us, it's an invitation to adventure. We have spent years searching out the remote corners of the world and sharing them here with you. But for us, sailing is only half the adventure. And we want to tell the whole story. We've shown you what life is like on the water. Now we want to show you what it's like under it.
Welcome to paradise.
Oh my goodness, would you look at this? We're in heaven!
It's absolutely glorious here. So we are in the northwest Tuamotus, which, if you've not been following along, is bang in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, we zipped through these on our way through last year and we didn't have enough time, so we thought, let's try and head back there, and we just about made it in our passage.
Yeah, it was like a 5-day sail from Tahiti back here, a great chance to test out our new engines. And they performed fantastically, actually. And now that we're here, the Tuamotus is kind of a weird part of the world because essentially it is a submerged mountain range, like billions of years old. I don't know how old it is. And so because they're all underwater, you just get these kind of rings of islands, these little atolls.
It's like the very top of the mountain, and so outside is just Pacific Ocean, nothing to see, and then inside you get this like amazingly flat, calm lagoon with little desert islands dotted around the outside. It's just absolutely unreal.
So there's not a lot of people live in the Tuamotus. They're probably one of the more remote parts of the world. However, there is still some culture to be seen. It's probably a bit more sedate than we're used to, which is lovely. We can do with the rest. But the most important part of why we're here is what's under the water.
There is so much to see. Nearby there is like a, I don't know, World Heritage Site or something, protected area. The diving is going to be absolutely insane.
Insane.
Cannot wait.
It's going to be great. All right, let's get back. I have a fairly exciting project for us to kick off this week because if we're going to do a lot of diving, we're going to need dive gear. So we've had this sat in the cabinet of bad ideas
for like over a year.
Long time. Yeah, Panama was when we got this guy. We were really excited back then, planning to go off to the Pacific. It was all going to go really well. And then obviously a few things have happened. But what this means is that we can fill our dive tanks anywhere, literally anywhere. I mean, when I say that, this sucker's electrical.
Wait a minute, are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
So the reason that we've waited till now to install this is actually because it's going to run off our generator, which hasn't worked for like 2 or 3 or 4 years. And so now that the generator is up and running, we can actually get this installed and get this up and running, and everything is going to come together just at the perfect timing as we find ourselves surrounded by all of these incredible dive sites.
So for those of you who don't actually understand what a dive compressor is, basically this sucks air out from the world around us through this little filter here, and then it's kind of like a little engine, I suppose, or a compressor. And it fires the air through some filters and eventually comes out of this guy, which we then screw into our dive tanks, and it'll pressurize up to quite a lot. I forget how high this one goes.
More than we need, anyway.
Working pressure 250 bar, yeah, which is more than our tanks are allowed to go to, so that's good. We have added a few extra pieces on here, so we have like safety valves that will release themselves if it gets too high. It's got drains for condensation and lots of things we don't know yet.
We've got time to learn.
We've got time.
We just
it's fine.
Have to not blow ourselves up in the meantime.
Or it.
So it should be, I think, quieter than petrol ones. Is that right?
It's supposed to be quiet because it's an electric engine. It's supposed to be a lot quieter. So I think it's, yeah, quieter.
We'll find out.
We don't know.
But we are going to put it down in the engine bay. So on our starboard side, we have the sort of like antechamber before you get to the engine bay.
Antechamber.
Yeah.
Is that about Victorian?
It's like a foyer.
A foyer
you arrive
to our
into
engine.
the entrance hall of our engine bay. And on the starboard side, we have our generator. And on the port side, there was nothing. So I have been fiberglassing again. I have made a little shelf that it's all going to sit on. And hopefully it's going to fit. We had to keep this space free for our stern anchor because this is like a really handy place that we keep it near the back of the boat. But we've kind of made this shelf over at the side. I think it's big enough. And then my plan is to put like a little low front wall on it and we'll have little storage cubbies underneath. I have thought about this and made little drain holes in there. So I've sort of future-proofed it. But yeah, I think it'll do. And hopefully it's strong enough and it'll just sit there nicely and not get in the way with like the rudder or the steering bar and everything else that's around in this space.
We've made it easy for ourselves.
Yes, we always keep the paddleboard there.
Don't fall in the big hole.
Don't drop it in the sea. Can you lift that end, or do you need me to lift the whole thing
There
up?
you go, 1, 2, 3.
Just.
In.
Oh,
Hang on, I need to get it.
yeah.
Okay, keep going.
All right.
Squished my head.
Oh, I can't go any lower.
Gotcha. Switch hands, switch sides.
Oh,
Got it?
yes.
All on you.
That looks like it actually fits.
It actually looks pretty good, yeah. So we never mentioned, they make lots of different models and lots of different manufacturers who make compressors. So we decided to go with this one. Not a sponsor, but Coltri is an Italian company and they make a couple of different sizes. And this is one of their smallest ones, but they're also really easy to get them to build it in electric. So this whole motor section can actually be replaced with a little 3 horsepower Honda, I think it is. Which actually the control box goes as well. So this all becomes one little kind of Honda engine. But they're a lot noisier. And also, if we had that, we would have to lift this thing out every single time we used it. Whereas we don't really want to do that. We instead want to try and install it. So the next thing we need to do is actually clamp it down to your shelf.
Yes, so that it doesn't just topple off when we
Jiggle
go
its way
sailing.
around. So for that, we're actually going to do exactly the same thing they did when they shipped it, which was they just had little brackets, like little metal strips. Same ones we used actually to mount the solar
Our
panels.
solar panels, yeah.
And we're just going to put them over the handles here and down onto the shelf. And that means we're still using the rubber feet to stop the vibrations, but we're holding it on with the structure of the chassis, I suppose.
So it's going to look good when it's done, but we're having to get creative to get there.
You know how we have a habit of doing projects in the middle of nowhere? This is what you end up building to make that happen. Should be fine. Should be fine.
It's going to be so neat when it's done because it's so tucked in underneath everything with like zero access.
Yeah, there is 0 access. Once these are in, they're not coming undone. We know that much.
Exactly.
How is that for secure?
That is not going anywhere. Big C's, here we come.
Woohoo! It's never coming out.
All right. So our power is going to come from our generator. You might remember in an episode just a couple of weeks ago, we converted this generator to be dual voltage. So it will fire out both 110 volt and 240. Our dive compressor is 110. So it's just going to come directly from the breaker here on the side and then follows that yellow cable up across the transom and into the other engine bay where our dive compressor is.
And as if by magic. So I think the big picture is we're going to put like a big breaker switch here, but we don't have that. So for now we use the generator, and the breaker on the generator is going to be our safety. And then we'll just put, basically we'll just join these 2 wires in here in a waterproof box. And that will be power from the generator into the compressor. Now for all of you electricians watching this, I know I'm not doing it right. I actually know I'm not doing it right, but I'm kind of just making do with what I've got available. And also Indioco doesn't get chartered or used by anybody else. So we're currently working on the basis that as long as I know what I did, then that's okay, right? Okay,
Excellent.
so we need to cable tie that power cable up.
Yeah, so that doesn't get caught in the rudder.
Away a little bit, but then we're on to the next bit.
Nice. Well, they say every boat project is just one broken bolt away from a 3-day disaster.
Not this one
I
yet.
don't think we're quite that bad.
Thankfully, although there's nobody here, there are 2 boats who arrived, and one of them we happened to be over with, was last night? No, the night before for sundowners. And so we went over and said, there isn't any chance you got a 24 mil wrench, because we don't. They did. They actually had 24, 23 and 22.
Ideal.
Turns out you just need a 24 mil wrench to remove this rather hard to reach
It's such
air filter.
a tight corner of the compressor down in there, and there's like no space to get to it.
Near impossible.
But hey,
We're in now. Okay, so what we're doing, sorry I didn't even explain this, but we're trying to attach a snorkel so that this can breathe from outside. And the only annoying factor is it would appear that Coltri slightly shortchanged us.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, you looked up the manual, and according to the manual, we have this fitting, which goes into the compressor. And at this end, you said there's supposed to be another part that will like marry these up.
Yeah, so there should be a female threaded part that goes on the end of that threads onto here.
And screw in.
But instead, I guess we're just going to have to like shove it on.
I figure that with a bike clip will do the job for the time being.
Yeah.
We can maybe tape it. But in the meantime, this snorkel can go on here. Right down in there. So I've been allowed out of the dark hole that is the dive compressor and engine bay, and Briny is now working away on fitting the filler unit. This is it's technically the first stage, I suppose. It's the piece that actually connects to the dive tanks to fill them up with air. The unit came with a really short hose, like less than a meter long, 3 feet, I think, which just wasn't going to cut it for us to be able to fill our tanks, not putting them down in the engine bay. So we did organize, we thought ahead, and we got an extra long hose. So I can't remember how long it is, but it's
this long.
Quite long.
I think the idea is that if this end accidentally becomes disconnected while it's running, it will stop it from like going and flying around inside the engine bay and killing somebody.
I just wish to point out that is a technical term. Job well done.
Okay, so everything's connected. We just now need to like feed this.
That's a monster.
And the air hose to where we actually want them to go, because the whole idea is that they don't come out the engine bay hatch because we want to leave that closed.
Yeah, so we've had all sorts of ideas about where it could come out and how we would manage the filler hose. Just back here, we have a deck shower. So this is like a little flappy door that opens, and we have the little shower that we can scoosh down. So we were ideally going to find another one of those and maybe put it somewhere over here. But when we went searching in Papeete and Tahiti, that was like, they'd never heard of this concept ever. So we didn't manage to find anything that could do that. So I'm not too sure yet, but I think we might have to do like a 3D print meets starboard creation. We'll see. Something that will at least work temporarily. We'll cut into this panel here, because this is actually a removable. It's a panel that's actually being glued in place. So if it gets really badly damaged, we can make a new one. But yeah, ideally we'll put one kind of here, then directly across the transom is where we keep the tanks. Well, it has been an incredibly productive evening. Well, I'll be honest, 2 evenings. The 3D printer has been working overtime. I think this might be the biggest thing we have ever printed on board. It is absurd. We also both think it looks a lot like a top hat. It isn't. It's actually our caddy that we're going to fit all the filler hoses and snorkels and things into. We've pre-drilled the holes to mount everything. Hopefully we have the space behind when we actually put this into the boat, and it doesn't just like hit the back wall.
And this is the terrifying bit. We've marked up a circle for where we want it to go, and we just now actually have to do the scary cutting a massive hole in our boat. Always hate this part. Hooray!
All right, I might need to neaten up with the Dremel, but
see if it fits.
Moment of truth, I guess.
Does the top hat fit in the side of the wall?
Fits in the first part.
Ooh!
Ooh, it's close. It's hitting something.
Don't snap it. That took ages to print.
Too right. Okay, a bit more.
All right.
Before we even fit this in, because we might not be able to get it back out again, I'm just going to point out the way we made this, because somebody will ask us this. So our 3D printer can only make things so big.
Yeah.
So we did it in 2 parts. So we did this section with the back panel, and then we did this section with like a lip on it, so that it's a bit more supported. So you then took epoxy and painted the whole thing, and then inside is all epoxied as well.
Yeah,
so
just to give it a little bit more strength.
Yeah.
Hopefully make it last longer.
That's it. 3D prints are quite good, but they can be kind of water porous.
It's going to be perfect. You ready?
So good. Here we go.
Yay!
Look at that.
Oh, that looks really cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
That looks really nice. I'm actually going to jump down into the engine bay and pull the hoses up through first. And I think we'll connect them out here. And then the last stage we'll do will be to fit that in place, because I think it'll just be easier to see what we're doing. And then once we glue that in place, there's kind of no going back. Now we find out how dusty it is in here. I tried to like drape a bin bag over to stop the dust getting in everything. And it doesn't look too bad. This is what I need to then poke through the hole, and you can catch it at the other end.
That and the filler hose, please.
Yes, all right.
It's not that long a reach, I hope. Hopefully, just like that. Magic. Thank you.
It's really long.
Probably longer than we need, huh? Wow. Yeah, way longer than we need. And if we can have the filler hose as well.
There you go.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Oops, hit camera, sorry. Okay, so the idea behind this is going to act a bit like a little garage where the filler and the snorkel are going to live inside this, and we'll just take the lid open, take the lid off even, lift out the filler and connect it to the tanks, which are right across the transom, which is perfect. And the snorkel will just live in there, breathing air through this portal. Basically, to show you what it is, there's a little filter in here, just a little paper filter, and all the air we're ultimately going to breathe when we go diving is going to come through that tiny hole. So we need to fit this to the end of the hose, but the hose is crazy long.
Insanely long.
So we're going to lose that much, I reckon, and still have plenty to be able to pull this out if we ever have to service it or ultimately undo it from the back of the portal. So now the snorkel is just going to fit down in there, like that.
Yeah.
And then we don't have the right thread for this, unfortunately, but I'm just going to clamp it down like crazy onto the threads that are available.
Cool.
So yeah, when we get back to civilization, we'll buy a barb adapter.
Yeah, that actually holds it in place.
Not ideal, but it'll do the job for now. And as long as we just check on it every so often in case it's vibrated loose, we should be all right. And then the other hose is this big beast of a filler, and this is what the garage is really for. So for those of you who don't dive, basically this bit is what's going to connect to our dive tank. And then we can open this valve and let air into the dive tank to fill it up. And it kind of controls it, regulating. But the high pressure hose that's going to be firing all that air from the compressor, we need to fit down into the portal, into the garage. Hopefully, something like that.
Yay! Nice.
So then this guy will slot in there. So, as always, I've been retired from all neatness jobs.
Yes, you're not allowed anywhere near this. Oh, well, you did a very neat job making that circle, so maybe you should be allowed to give it a go.
I think the last time I used any of this 42, 52, this is actually 4000, which is like UV protected stuff as well. I'm pretty sure I came out with like my hands caked in it and smears on my face. It was not good.
So while Ian was busy with the 3D printer, I have had fun with the sewing machine, and I have made a cover to try and keep any salt water off the dive compressor, particularly when we're underway, just if any waves kind of get into it. They really shouldn't get into the engine bay, but just to protect it, keep it good for as long as possible. So I'm just going to check that it fits, and then that bit should be done. And we'll take it off when it's in use, but we'll put it on at the end just to keep things good.
Yeah, so one of the things we were worried about with putting the dive compressor in the engine bay is it happens to be directly above where our deck shower is. That, and as you have seen in other episodes, we get quite big waves occasionally hitting the back of the boat. So having it tucked way down in here was great for storage, but a little bit nerve-wracking, hence the cover.
I'm hoping it's just sort of gonna slip over like that.
Pretty snug.
It fits, it works.
Nice one. Well done. All right, it is time for the fun, terrifying bit. We're going to fire this thing up. We're going to find out if it works.
And we're really going to hope that we don't blow everything up in the process.
Yeah, what could go wrong? We're in the middle of nowhere. There are literally no boats anywhere to be seen. And we decided to do an install project with a highly compressed air device. So for those of you who are divers, forgive me for a second. For those of you who aren't, just a very quick explanation. As the air gets forced into the tank, it gets put under pressure, so it gets squeezed down more and more. And we measure that normally in bars or barometric pressure. Some people will also use PSI, and weirdos will use pascals, but we don't. So yeah, we work in bar. I'm sorry, if you work in PSI, I can't remember the conversion. But
so I think 200 bar is 3000 PSI.
There you go.
So we've got like a quarter of a tank, basically, is what we're sitting at. And I can't do a quarter of 3000 quick enough.
It's been a long day. It's been a really long day. Anyway. The good news is the boat already has a manual, right?
Yes. So we are going to do a full episode on Zora coming up very soon. But all of our manuals for everything on the boat are stored right in here. So yeah, I can give you instructions and you can get on with doing the scary bit. We've connected all of the hoses and the generator's running, so we just need to make sure that the bleed valve is closed by rotating it clockwise.
Okay, so a few different bleed valves, but this one on the filler hose is closed.
And then we can open up the valve opposite.
This one
by rotating it anti-clockwise.
Is open. all the way open back time. Okay.
And then it says
that's already closed.
Start the compressor. Yeah, the other one on the tank is still
That
closed.
was closed.
We'll start the compressor first and then we'll open that. So to create a bit of a soft start so that the compressor doesn't pull like loads of power at once, we're gonna open the drain valve on the side, start the compressor and then close it afterwards, and then hopefully it'll just sort of run a bit more smoothly as it kicks up and settles down. Is it just a push button?
It's just a push button.
Is it gonna be noisy?
I think it'd be noisy-ish. If it works.
How long do you have to push the button for?
I haven't pressed it yet, I'm scared. Okay, I'm doing it.
Do it! Oh,
That was oil. A lot of it.
wow. I was just about to start filming and I've realized how much oil hit the lens. Give me 1 second and we'll explain what happened. All right, so as we were saying, yeah, I think we overfilled the oil.
Just a tad.
That was quite exciting.
If you ever needed evidence that nothing goes perfectly smooth when you're cruising, surely it is having your face flooded out with a litre of brand new oil.
I don't know what that looked like on camera, but that was a serious geyser of oil. Like the lid popped off, thankfully.
We found
it just fell back down inside the engine bay and didn't splash off the side. But
Yeah.
yeah, that didn't quite go to plan.
Now that the safety oil valve has exploded nicely, well, our worry was that it might have jumped off into the sea, but it actually just fell down inside the engine bay, so we managed to dig it up again. And I think the geyser has basically leveled out the oil requirements. So just we now have like a steady stream of oil going down toward the bilge, which we'll have to keep cleaning up as we go.
Yeah.
But
it was exciting for a second because the compressor actually ran. The big fan
compressor ran.
spun around and things moved.
I'm willing to try it again. It might do the same thing again.
Okay, take 2.
The pressure will start building up,
Okay.
and then we need to open that tank.
Ah! Oh, I'm so nervous to touch anything in case it all explodes.
That's good.
I heard it go in.
Yeah, we're up from 100 bar back to 50, so it's good. Woo! It worked!
It's filling, it's doing a thing, it's working and doing what it should, and it's moving air. That's pretty quiet.
That's quite acceptable, I think, in an anchorage. Like, the biggest worry we had was most people would get dive compressors on their boats, they lug them out and they put them on the foredeck and then they rattle away with a 3 horsepower Honda engine. And we didn't really want to upset any neighbors that we might have around about us. We like to keep friends. So that's why we wanted to install it in the first place. But actually, that's okay. That's quieter than the generator, I reckon. The most noise is coming from the portal.
Yeah, right. So everything is just happening in there.
Oh. Whew.
What just happened?
All right, we both had a bit of a heart attack there. We heard like a sudden hissing sound and we're like, oh no, what's that? It's gone wrong. And then we opened the lid and of course, we had I don't know if you said this, we have a timer, like an automated bleed valve for the condensate valve. So every 10 to 15 minutes, it'll open itself and bleed off any condensation. The idea being that as this is drawing air in, it gets hot and it makes condensation. It doesn't want to put that into the tank. So it kind of catches it in a chamber, but the pressure builds up in there and the liquid builds up. And so it opens the valve and drains the liquid away. And that's automatic. So
that was supposed to happen.
Perfectly normal. Oh my goodness, this is scary. I'm not sure this diving game is not for everybody.
People say it's supposed to be relaxing. This is terrifying.
It really is.
So we're just going to keep an eye on the pressure as it gets up and close to 200 bar. We've been running it for maybe 10 minutes so far. That's why the 10-minute timer went off. And we're up to about 100 bar now. So we're halfway there. And I think we'll just stop it manually when we get close to 200. We do have like an automatic shut off when the tanks are full, which should work, probably works, probably is fitted, but having already exploded the oil once today, I don't think we're going to push our luck. So we'll stop it manually this time, but it should all run a little bit more automatically in the future as we trust the system a little bit more. So when we're done and we shut down, we need to just turn off the compressor first and then close up the valves that come into the tank.
3, 2, 1. That's the bleed valve going.
Yeah.
So I shut that off. And just turn that one slowly. Very nice and slow. There you go, and then all the way. And what that's doing is it's actually depressurizing the hose, which has
Yeah.
high pressure air in it. So that's now depressurized.
Look at that! We have a dive compressor!
That is ridiculous. We officially are off grid. Like we can
Yeah.
dive anywhere in the world.
Anywhere. Oh my goodness, this opens up so much to us because we always like going to the remote places in the back of Beyond, and now we can actually explore them properly.
Properly, because before we only had the 3 tanks. So whenever you've seen us dive, we've only been able to do, we're pretty good at getting 2 dives out of a single tank. So we get 2 dives each.
Yeah.
And then we were done. So if we were doing a long stint out here, you have to kind of gamble when is the best time to dive. You don't just dive whenever you think
Yeah,
there might be a
like
good dive.
we would like turn down diving opportunities because we're like, oh, I don't know if that's going to be as good as that other one later. Whereas now we spend all day
You
underwater.
can literally go for a walk underwater. You want to stretch your legs? Let's go stretch your legs. Splash.
Would have been quite funny if I pushed you.
I'm still covered in oil.
But we did it!